Iran says death upon Americans, the top of the Iran. This is not even the people in the streets.
Who gives a fuck? So what? I never honestly thought that you were going to sit here and actually defend the fucking Shah. No, you're putting words in my mouth. Is your question which is more beneficial to me or which is better for Iran?
Patrick Bet-David got schooled by Reza Aslan on his own show, and honestly, it's hard to believe he didn't see that coming. PBD thought he could trap Aslan with tough questions on the JCPOA and Iran's regime. But Aslan wasn't biting, just hitting him with facts.
So you support negotiating with a nation that says Marg bar Amrika, death upon America.
The nuclear deal, or JCPOA, became the central battleground of the debate between Patrick Bet-David and Reza Aslan. And it didn't take long to see where the clash of ideologies started. PBD's core issue with the deal was clear. He just couldn't get past the idea of negotiating with a country that, in his view, openly threatened America. Every time the topic came up, PBD circled back to Iran's death to America rhetoric, as if that was enough to invalidate any diplomatic efforts. For him, negotiating with a regime that hated the US was a moral no-go. He wasn't interested in the facts or the results of the deal. To him, it was all about Iran's hostility. But as much as PBD tried to play the emotional card, Aslan wasn't interested in getting sucked into that trap.
Let alone agreed on this absolutely remarkable deal under the Obama administration to remove all the enriched uranium out of Iran.
Let alone agreed out of Iran. Instead, Reza Aslan calmly turned the conversation to what actually mattered: the facts. While PBD got caught up in the hostility and rhetoric, Aslan focused on the real outcome of the deal. Iran's nuclear capabilities were significantly reduced. The JCPOA didn't just promise to stop Iran from developing nuclear weapons, it delivered.
The IAEA came out in no uncertain terms and said, within 12 months of that deal being put in place, Iran no longer had the enriched uranium to create a nuclear bomb.
Within a year of the deal, Iran had no enriched uranium, and that was verified by the IAEA. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. This was an actual success that removed the threat of nuclear proliferation. Aslan wasn't just defending the deal because it sounded good. He was laying out hard evidence that showed it worked, which was something PBD clearly struggled to comprehend. This is where the emotional versus rational divide really came into play.
Have you heard of the phrase diplomacy?
But diplomacy,
there is no negotiation with a country that actually agrees with you. We negotiate with countries that disagree.
Then, Aslan brought in the broader, more nuanced argument that PBD completely overlooked. The deal wasn't just about nuclear weapons. It was about diplomacy, engagement, and even pushing Iran toward economic liberalization. The JCPOA wasn't a quick fix for everything, but it was a step in the right direction. By opening up Iran to the global market, it was possible to slowly weaken the regime's stranglehold and allow the people of Iran more freedom and opportunity. But PBD didn't want to hear any of that. His view was too narrow, too focused on short-term emotions, and too blinded by the idea that negotiating with Iran meant supporting everything about its government.
You're comfortable negotiating with a country that hates us.
Then, PBD tried to lean into his emotional trap again by asking, how can we negotiate with a country that hates us? This was his go-to tactic to paint diplomacy as impossible with Iran. But Aslan didn't flinch.
Do you know how much shit we send to North Korea right now? Do you know how many billions of dollars in aid we send to North Korea? Is there anyone more unreasonable than Kim Jong-un? That's who we negotiate with, is unreasonable people.
He shot back with one of the most ironic and sharp responses of the debate. He reminded PBD of the hypocrisy in his own argument by bringing up the US's dealings with North Korea, a country with a similarly hostile leadership. If we could negotiate with North Korea, why not Iran? Aslan pointed out that diplomacy, by nature, requires engaging with adversaries, not just friends. It's easy to negotiate with people who agree with you, but real diplomacy happens when you have to find common ground with people who don't.
If you had a choice between how Iran was during Shah's era versus Khomeini, which would you choose?
The debate took a turn when Patrick Bet-David tried to corner Reza Aslan with a classic forced dichotomy, asking him to choose between the Shah of Iran and Ayatollah Khomeini. PBD framed it as a simple question. Which one was better for the people of Iran? It's a question that's been asked 1,000 times, but it's one that doesn't hold up when you think about it for more than a second.
Neither.
I knew you were going to say that, but you can't say neither.
Fuck that.
You cannot say neither. How do you mean neither? How can you say neither? Be honest. I'm being serious with you.
Aslan immediately rejected the premise, pointing out that both the Shah and Khomeini's regimes were oppressive and violent. He wasn't interested in playing the game of picking one dictator over another.
We replaced one murderous regime with another murderous regime.
His stance was clear. Iran didn't go from a perfect regime under the Shah to a worse one under Khomeini. It replaced one brutal regime with another. And let's be real. When you think about it, that's not exactly a choice anyone should have to make.
By the way, the Shah was more beneficial to the people. You're saying Khomeini is more beneficial to the people.
Fuck no, that's not what I said.
So the question I'm asking is,
literally said
what is
you,
more beneficial? You can't say neither, though.
You are telling me which murderous regime would you prefer?
But PBD couldn't handle Aslan's refusal to pick a side. He pushed harder, trying to get Aslan to say that one regime was better for the people. But Aslan wasn't biting. This moment of frustration exposed something important about PBD's approach. He wanted a soundbite. He wanted to be able to say, well, Aslan admits the Shah was better. But that wasn't going to happen. Aslan's refusal to play into PBD's simplistic framing of the situation made PBD's tactics look weak. Instead of engaging with the complexities of history, PBD wanted to reduce everything to a binary choice. But Aslan wasn't having it.
Remember the thousands of people that he slaughtered on the street, the tens of thousands of people who would disappear into education camps? We replaced one murderous regime with another murderous regime, and it's stupid to say, which one would you prefer?
Aslan took this opportunity to reframe the conversation. He explained that both regimes were harmful to the Iranian people, regardless of which one you favored. The Shah's regime, despite its modernization efforts, was known for its human rights abuses, widespread surveillance, and repression. It was stable for some, sure, but at what cost? Thousands were tortured and disappeared under his rule. The Khomeini regime, in turn, replaced that with its own form of oppression, using religion as a tool of control. Aslan's point wasn't about defending one over the other. It was about acknowledging that both were oppressive and that Iran's people never got the chance to choose a truly democratic path.
Your example is the perfect one. The moment Shah left, your dad as a communist left. What are you talking about?
My father didn't feel safe in
Then why
Iran?
didn't he leave under the Shah? Why did he leave right Khomeini came in?
Things got even more personal when PBD took a cheap shot at Aslan's family history. He brought up how Aslan's family fled Iran under Khomeini's regime, implying that Aslan's opinions might be colored by his personal experiences. Aslan, on the other hand, stayed focused on the bigger picture, refusing to let PBD derail the conversation with personal attacks. Ultimately, PBD's decision to make the debate personal instead of substantive was a sign of his weakness in argumentation.
How do we empower those people to actually be able to remove their government from
By
power?
suffocating their government.
Patrick Bet-David's stance on sanctions against Iran was pretty clear. He believed they were a necessary tool to pressure the Iranian regime. But here's the problem. PBD conveniently ignores the fact that sanctions have done little to weaken the regime and, in reality, have mostly hurt the Iranian people. The idea was to squeeze the government, force a change in behavior. But what really happened was that the sanctions ended up entrenching the very regime PBD wanted to dismantle.
Why do you think all these girls right now are willing to sacrifice their lives? For what, though? What do you think the women right now are doing in Iran? What do you think they're doing it for?
They're sacrificing their lives
Why are they
for
doing
their
it for?
most basic human rights.
Basic human rights, things that you and I have here.
Absolutely.
I support that.
Ordinary Iranians? They're the ones who suffered the most, with everyday people facing shortages, inflation, and a crumbling economy, while the regime just dug in its heels.
You do realize that right now the rich people in Iran are the people in government. The mullahs with the Rolexes.
I don't disagree.
So
I don't disagree.
45 years of sanctions has made the people poor and the government rich.
No.
Aslan, on the other hand, brought in a well-researched, fact-based critique. He explained how sanctions actually played into the hands of the regime by giving it a scapegoat for Iran's problems. The government could easily blame the economic hardships on the West.
What I am talking about is the policies that arise from the JCPOA, which requires the liberalization of Iran's economy.
And that's where the JCPOA comes in. While PBD dismissed the deal as just a way to strengthen the regime, Aslan argued that it was about far more than just halting nuclear development. The JCPOA was about reintegrating Iran into the global economy, creating opportunities for economic liberalization.
Which is why I argued 10 years ago that Iran should be allowed into the World Trade Organization, because then it would have to actually pursue policies that require economic liberalization.
It wasn't a magic bullet, but it was a step toward providing the Iranian people with the economic freedom they needed, a way to push the country toward a more open and dynamic market. Yet PBD, still focused on his narrow view, dismissed this broader impact, clinging to the idea that the deal only helped the regime.
The money goes to them.
You can't be that naive. You have 4 degrees. I don't have a degree.
The money goes to them if they actually have an ability to access it, if they have access to the free market economy, if they have access to interdependence. I'm sorry, who do we negotiate? We only negotiate with countries that love us? Is that how negotiations work? Have you heard of the phrase diplomacy?
But diplomacy,
there is no negotiation with a country.
What really stood out in this debate was the difference in approach. PBD kept trying to reduce everything to easy-to-digest sound bites. But Aslan kept the conversation grounded in reality, showing that foreign policy isn't about making a quick statement for the cameras. It's about understanding the long-term implications of your actions. So, in your opinion, who is on the right side?